Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sunday Messages. I am back. I am here. Let me take a moment to give you an idea of what I'm going to be doing today and how things are going to be moving forward. So, the first thing that I want to mention is that today's episode is going to be me getting caught up on the submissions that I've received over the past few months, okay? Because I've been gone. But now that I'm back and settled, I'm going to get caught up on submissions. And then my plan for what I want to do moving forward is have more topical episodes. And then as needed, I'm going to do prayer requests, submission forms, advice column, all that good stuff. So if you have them, send them to me. You're more than welcome to. But I am going to be doing more topical episodes. So that's what I'm in the mood for, and that's what we're going to be doing. So the first thing, I do have a couple of prayer requests that by this time I think they're probably out of date. And so I'm just going to do like a general prayer for everyone who submitted those. And then we're going to dive into the question that I received, and then we're going to dive into the advice column. So both the prayer requests were around health and well-being. And so this is the prayer for everyone. I'm in full agreement for everyone to know the dominance and certainty of their well-being. I'm in full agreement for everyone involved and affected to stay connected to their own source and for them to stabilize themselves in that connection. I'm in full agreement for peace of mind and heart. I'm in full agreement for the outcomes of the highest good for anyone involved and affected at this time. And I think that's complete for the prayers. I think that encompasses everything that was mentioned on the prayers. It was really just prayer for healing. So that's what I have for you. And full agreement. Don't forget, if you're in a caretaking position, it's very important that you stay connected to your own source. That is critical. Okay, so just to want to mention that for anyone who's in that position. Okay, now let's go ahead and dive into the question that I received. I got this towards the end of February. So if you are listening to this, I apologize for being late on this, but I hope I'm just saying a prayer that this actually makes its way to you and that you hear this answer. Okay, here's the question. What are your tips on combating really stubborn, obsessive thinking? I feel like I've learned so many tools and have been working on myself for so many years, but this piece of the puzzle still feels extremely unmanageable and maybe even bordering on undiagnosed OCD. My brain feels like a broken record, and it feels like I'm literally reframing and redirecting my thoughts all day. It's exhausting, and it's cock-blocking me from experiencing all the goodness in my life. First of all, I relate to this question. If you have been with me for any length of time, that I had the same experience of like the OCD was the one piece that I could not get a grip on, and I did not know how to fix. So I am with you on that. Let's see. What the first thing that I want to say is when it comes to OCD, mindset work mindset work is not the avenue that I would choose. And the reason being is that OCD is like a permanent skeptic in your mind. And so no matter how much you try to placate that skeptic, it's always going to say, what about, what if? That is the mantra of OCD. And so Mindset work is just you chasing it into a black hole. That's why there's absolutely no resolution that comes from that. So I would say you don't actually need to tackle it with mindset work because it's kind of a futile attempt at resolving it. So there's a few different approaches that people have, and any one of them could be helpful in this situation. So the first thing would be looking at OCD as an expression of trauma. And this is something that has worked for people, but I won't say it's a catch-all for everyone. So I'll give you the example. I'm sure I've said it on a podcast episode before, that my former therapist had a client who had a phobia of frogs, like an obsession and phobia of frogs. And there was sexual trauma that was from childhood. Once they resolved the trauma and once they integrated all of that, the phobia of frogs went away. And so that is something that in some circumstances and situations can be really helpful. So that's one possibility. The second possibility is exposure. So some people deal with OCD through exposure therapy, just exposing yourself to a lot of it until you almost become desensitized to it. And I think some people may have found results with that. Here's where I've landed in this situation. And this is kind of how I was able to make my way out of the OCD labyrinth, if you will, is at its bones, OCD, the compulsion piece falls into one of two categories. So it's either the compulsion is expressed as avoidance. So you see this a lot in harm OCD with like needing to hide the knives, or like hiding kitchen knives, or avoiding the kitchen, avoiding certain parts of the house, or not being around family members because you're afraid that you're going to kill your family. Okay, so that's avoidance. That's an expression of OCD. The other expression of OCD would be checking. So compulsively checking. If you know my story, you know that this was manifesting as like chronic breast exams, like 8-hour breast exams. And it was like, what if I missed something? 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 That I was doing that to the point where I was literally spiraling out. It was taking over my entire life. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that eventually, once I resolved that through breast massage, I've talked about this on another episode, so I don't want to go into that too in depth here, and I want to get to the next part, is the OCD ended up shape-shifting, and then it became an obsession with, I'm live on Instagram right now, so it made me obsessed with downstairs, okay? So it became checking downstairs. I would be more graphic if I wasn't live on Instagram right now. I was like checking downstairs repeatedly. I was wanting to make sure that nothing was wrong downstairs all the time. I was like, there was a fixation, or I would avoid it. I would like not want to deal with it at all. I would like just do everything in my power to avoid my own body, which wasn't effective either. So at its core, OCD is about discomfort with risk. That's how I would categorize it. Because for someone who's dealing with OCD, there's a risk in not ruminating. So if you're choosing not to ruminate and you're not thinking about that thing, there's a risk. It's like, well, thinking actually satisfies the OCD gremlin, if you will. And so if you stop thinking about it, it's like, oh no, what if I stop thinking about this, then I'm not going to solve the problem, even though I've been thinking about this for years and I still haven't solved the problem. So indulging in rumination and indulging in thinking and in the obsession itself is how someone with OCD is attempting to mitigate risk. So if you can, to the best of your ability, start to look at OCD and obsessive thinking as an invitation to take calculated risks. That will make it make way more sense for you. Okay, but it depends on how you're compulsing. Because usually it's like if you're avoiding, then you check, that's the risk. If you're checking, then not checking is the risk that you have to take. And I'm sorry, my allergies are so bad right now. So I'm going to try to keep this under control. Not ruminating is the biggest risk that you have to be willing to take for your own healing. Because the thing is, I do not consider the goal of OCD to be not experiencing an obsessive thought ever again. I think that's too tall of an order. I think when it comes to OCD, it's more like remission. Like you can put it in remission and it can be something that you feel really good about and that you're at peace with, and you're not experiencing as much of an inflammatory response. I think that's like a good place to aim is, do I feel good about where I've landed, even if there is an obsessive thought that comes up? Do I trust myself to navigate the surfacing of that thought? Because that's really what it is. That's what it looks like for me at this stage, is like, do I ever think about some of the things that I've had OCD about in the past? Yes. Does it make me spiral out for a week? No. That's the goal, is that you have the emotional stability to be presented with a thought that was originally scary and not allow it to drag you through the mud. There's a certain level of willpower involved in this that I want to make really clear, which makes it unique. And let me get a little bit more specific with the details of how I navigated this. Okay, so my obsession with downstairs, okay, we all know what I'm talking about. My obsession and compulsion around that was manifesting as checking and avoiding at the same time, which made it feel really complicated because it felt like no matter what I was doing, I was indulging the compulsion. Finally, I figured it out, which was, there's a hard boundary around checking. Okay, so I know that checking is not serving me, it is not helping me. Rumination is not working. I'm not able to stabilize myself in a better mindset with this. And so checking is a hard line. However, I also can't avoid it either, because avoiding and not wanting to think about it and not wanting to check is also indulging the OCD. So the middle ground that I found was, I give myself permission to briefly check once a day when I'm in the shower. That way I'm not falling too far into any extreme. I'm not avoiding. I'm not repeatedly checking. And after I get out of the shower, if there's an OCD thought that comes up, what if you missed something? What if you didn't check enough? Because that was always the problem. Like, what if 30 seconds after something has changed physiologically speaking? That was what my brain would say to me. My response to that was, okay, in this moment, I'm willing to take the risk that even if that's true, I'm still not going to check. Is that possible? Yes. That's the risk, is that I understand that there's a possibility there and I'm still not going to indulge it. I also would tell myself, okay, if anything has changed, I'm going to shower tomorrow and I'll address it then. Before this 24-hour period, no checking, hard boundary on that. And so what this did was it increased my risk tolerance with like, I am willing to take the risk by not thinking about this, not compulsing. And doing that every day, like, yeah, I'm going to take the risk. It's kind of like you want to treat OCD with an open hand. Oh God, there's this guy, Michael, is it Michael Green? He has interesting theories on OCD. He's dealt with OCD for many, many years. And so God, I need to get his name, whatever. You can start looking up OCD Michael G, and you'll probably find some of his podcasts and some of his work and his book and articles and all that stuff. So the thought, you want to imagine that the scary thought is sitting here and just allowing it to be there and being okay with it being there without engaging with it. So it's almost this mindfulness practice, like, is that worst case scenario thought there? Yes. Am I going to try to suffocate it out with mindset work? No, because I can't. I can't use mindset work as a way to compulse it into submission. So the only thing that I can do is I can give the thought permission to be there and say, okay, the thought is there. That's it. And not do anything with it. Not try to hide from it, not try to avoid it, not doing mindset work around it. It is literally like the mindfulness practice of just allowing it to pass like a cloud in your mind. So the criticism of this approach is that it sounds to people like, well, just stop it. And there is an element of that. There is an element of just stop. It's okay. It's okay if the scary thought is there. It's okay. And you'll notice that if you give more permission for the scary thought to be there without entrenching yourself in the nitty-gritty details of the scary thought and letting it spiral out into negative fantasies, because that's also engaging with the thought, that the emotional charge is going to go down so that you're less likely to engage with the thought moving forward. Another way to think about this is engaging with the thought in a way that is like a negative fantasy, or it's like, I'm going to imagine the worst case scenario. That is you compulsing. So the thought is compulsing. Active thought, chasing the rabbit down the hole, is compulsing. And when you start thinking about it as not giving yourself permission to compulse through thought, that is really what changed for me. Is because even going out of my way to like jump through hoops in order to avoid the thought of this, or in order to like obliterate this thought and make sure it never comes up ever again because it scares me so bad. That's impossible. It's impossible, particularly for those with OCD. It's like there's so much momentum around the thought. The odds of you never thinking that thought again are damn near impossible. It's damn near zero. So the goal shouldn't be to never have the thought again. The goal should be for the thought to come up, you have awareness of it and not do anything with it or about it. And I think that is the disciplined practice that is required in order for you to kind of come to terms and come to peace with the OCD. Okay, But I think that's it. I would say that in conjunction with tending to your nervous system and like not fighting the thought, but also not being willing to engage with the thought either. I think if you can successfully do those two things, it'll change your life. And I apologize if it sounds a little bit too cerebral, but that is literally how I went into remission with my OCD. So that is my answer for you. That is the best way I can describe it. Okay. Before we get started, for people who are pretty much exclusive podcast listeners, I just want to take a moment to let you know the ways that you can work with me right now if you are interested, like what I have going on that's live right now. First would be my mastermind, Graced. If you've been wanting to work with me directly, if you want my eyes and ears on your life and in your personal work, then the mastermind is the way to do it. Graced is the way to do it. Okay, that's option number one. Number two, I did open up a new program called Big Kid School. I'm not going to talk about it too much because if I start talking, I will not shut up. I will go for like a full hour if I start talking about it, but I'm going to put the link in the description box or the show notes, depending on where you're listening to this. Or if you're watching on Instagram, the link is in my bio. You know the deal. And also I did like a full hour. I swear to you, it ended up being like a masterclass on my Instagram. I'll put the link for that as well in the description box. It was so good. It was so good. We were talking about manifestation. We were just talking about all of these different nooks and crannies and like pleasure tolerance and sensitivity to pleasure. And like, it was so freaking good. I'm trying to figure out a way to download my video so I can post it on YouTube for everyone because it was so good. Anyway, there's a lot when it comes to Big Kid School. It's 3 months with me. It's unlike anything else I've ever launched. I am trying not to talk too much. If you're curious about it, go check it out. And the third thing is I started doing inner dialogue embodiment sessions in Astral Playground, and they've been like a smash hit. People love them. And basically what we do is I go into, let's call it a rampage. I go into like all of these different statements and allowing the words to really build momentum as you're doing very minimal embodiment work, like just tapping, breathing. I have a whole bunch of different things that we do for those sessions. They have been so much fun. They have been so freaking fun. If you want to check it out, go get an Astral Playground. It's $30. It's like stupid. You get a stupid amount of content. You get the entire library. It is like the most ridiculously high value thing I've ever created for $30. Like it's stupid. So I just wanted to let you know those things are open at this moment. And that's it for now. Okay, so let's get into this advice column. And also, just so you know, even though this was submitted anonymously, I am like 99% sure this is a former client of mine. And I'm pretty sure that I know who all of these players in the situation are. And so I feel like I know more of the details than what is outlined here because I am certain that this is my former client. Okay, so I might insert some of the family details that are going on here just for additional context for the audience. Here we go. Hi, Sid. I need some advice, hoping you can help. I briefly saw my brother's ex-girlfriend on the Sunday of his wedding weekend. They broke up 3 years ago. I was there for the breakup, okay? All the wedding festivities were over. We were extremely close and still have a relationship to this day. I rarely see her, and she just happened to be in town. She lives 2 hours away, and I stopped in to have one drink with her at the bar she was at. My brother and his new wife found out about this. They are livid and not speaking to me at this time. They believe this is a massive betrayal and deception. I had no idea this would hurt them like this, or I never would have done it. I do now understand that this was the wrong decision to see her over that weekend. And of course, I apologized and have taken full accountability for my actions. However, I do feel that their reaction was too extreme. How do I move forward and make things right with them, especially if I'm a little resentful that they reacted the way they did? I want to respect their feelings about it, but I also want to make sure that I'm not being steamrolled. Thank you so much. Okay, full transparency. I tried recording this podcast episode yesterday, and this submission was like making me sweat with anger. I was like so angry by this situation and that reaction. So let me add a few pieces of what I think is going on in the situation that is kind of the subtext, the layer underneath what this is presenting as, okay? First of all, I want to point out this is very clearly not being driven by your brother. And the reason why I'm saying that is I remember talking about your brother. I heard a lot about your brother. I feel like I personally know and understand your brother, even though I've never met him in person. To me, this is translating as he is obligated to be outraged in this situation because he's newly married. So it would not be a good look if his new wife was really upset and outraged by something, and then he didn't have her back on day one of marriage. And so I suspect that this is one of those situations where he has to be on her side, because otherwise it could add more problems and complications for him. And that's just not a good way to kick off a marriage. Is it fair? No, but I also understand why he is like obligated to go along with this. And I would be curious if you've spoken to him privately and just asked, like, are you serious? Like, are you honestly? Because to me, I don't think if she wasn't upset about it, I don't think your brother would care. The second question that I have is, who the fuck told them? Who told them? That is like the biggest thing to me, because honestly, if there wasn't a rat, none of this would be an issue. You get what I'm saying? And the fact that someone would go out of their way to insert themselves into family business that is not theirs, that is like, you've got shitty friends. I'm talking about your brother and sister-in-law. Like, who would do that? Who would do that? Why? This is none of your business. Absolutely not. So to have the audacity to go gossip like that, you have shitty friends. And that's my read on the situation. And the only problem is that someone said something to them. Okay, let me get back. Let me cool down for a second. Okay, so how to repair the relationship? Let me give you what I think a nice pacifist practitioner would tell you, and then I'll tell you what I think, and I'll give you my honest advice. What a pacifist will say is, go ahead and drop into your heart, and you're going to go into a conversation, and you're going to say, you know what, my commitment is to this family and to make things right with you, and I want things to be good with us. And so however it is that I can make this better, you know, for you, for me, for this family, for the good of everyone involved, I blah 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 think that we should make this right, and I'm willing to make that happen. Okay, so that's the pacifist way to go about that. And if that's truly what you want to do, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. In my opinion, though, the larger problem that is emerging is what type of ecosystem do you want to create around boundaries that you have with tantrums? Okay, because if someone in your life who's new, right? Keep in mind, this is also some context for anyone who's listening. This ex has been a part of the family for like 15 years. And this ex is cool. And they ended things. The breakup was mutual. It was clean. It was very responsible. It was very adult. The entire family loves this ex. And my client has had a relationship with the ex forever, since the very beginning. This is not a secret. So to say that it's deceptive is a serious miscategorization. This is not betrayal. This is not deceptive, because everyone in the family knows exactly what type of relationship you have with this ex. And I know that you are not the only one who is on good terms with the ex. Even if your brother is not in any type of contact with her, it's like this family has a relationship with her. And so it's not fair to say this is deceptive. Now, let me flip into the other side of what's going on with the new wife. Hold on, I'm like stepping in her shoes for a minute. What's happening with the new wife is, first of all, there is some jealousy about the level of connection that you have with the ex. Okay, so there is like a particular threatening vibe that comes from like, my sister-in-law wants to spend time with the ex. Oh no, is the ex going to get close and be brought into the fold of the family? That can be threatening. Still doesn't give her, in my opinion, I don't think it justifies a temper tantrum over what you do in your personal life. It's not like you bailed on the wedding to go grab a drink with the ex. That's jacked up, and that's something that is worth being upset about. Like, you abandoned us for the ex-girlfriend. Hello, this is like once in a lifetime. But that's not what happened. And so the reason why I think she is upset at this level is because there's a feeling of being threatened, that what if the ex gets close? And that's just a consequence of her own insecurity, right? Like that's mechanically what's going on here. That's what's happening. Now, this is where my attitude is a little bit different, because to me, I am not willing to back down and placate someone's insecurity. I won't do it, because you've got to understand that if someone gets a whiff, that you will fold like a cheap chair at the slightest bit of conflict, then they're going to wrap you around their finger. And that's something that I'm not cool with. So the precedent that you want to set is actually going to inform how future interactions go. Because if she can pitch a fit and you all of a sudden start bending over backwards, well, you can anticipate more. There's going to be more to come. So just buckle up. Because if she's this new, it's only a couple years into this, and this is already going on, yeah, there's going to be more to come. So honestly, I think they're bluffing, and I would call their bluff by doubling down on my position and on my boundaries. That's what I would do. That's not nice. That's not very family forward for many people, but I would never want someone to be under the impression that they can get away with throwing a tantrum that's rooted in their own insecurities, and then I am going to modify my relationships in order to soothe the baby, so to speak. It's like your feelings about this are your problem. And the other problem is that you have someone who would tell you about something like this. So not talking to you over this, to me, is a severe overreaction. And like, it almost makes me think, like, if you're going to go into no contact with me over this, after I already apologized and I already said, I understand why you would be upset that this happened on the wedding weekend. I get it. I get why you're upset. And they're still not talking to you, then it's like, how are we ever going to have a functional relationship if this thing is like the linchpin in whether or not we have a relationship moving forward? What, are they going to ice you out every time you talk to someone over the phone that they don't like, or that it's such a codependent clusterfuck that it's like upsetting me. And that's why I feel this strong sense of like, do not concede, do not back down from the boundaries that you want to hold. Don't do it, because it's just giving this situation permission to be carried forward into other circumstances and situations. And so it's like, do I actually think that this is the type of situation that they're going to end your relationship over? No, I think this is a lie, because this is an overreaction. And so my attitude in the situation would probably be, I'm sorry you found out. I'm not saying you would say that. I'm saying my attitude is, I'm sorry you found out. You weren't supposed to find out. And no, I'm not going to end my relationship with the ex because she's really fucking cool and she's a lot cooler than you. The relationship isn't ending. Tough shit. If you don't like it, then yeah, go ahead, end the relationship. That's a good idea. Go ahead, isolate my brother from the entire family if you want. If my relationships with other people are this much of a problem, then let's just cut the shit. Let's just go ahead and commit to the drama. You know, I don't like games like this, because to me, this is a game. She's playing a game, and she wants to see how much power and control she has. I don't fuck with that. So anyway, my attitude, how I would probably go about this, even though it is not nice, I'm telling you right now, this is not how I would recommend that everyone go about this. This is not the approach for everyone. You do not have to do this, and I want to make that very clear. This is what I would do as someone who does not entertain any level of codependency. I would say, hey, new wife, I want you to know that I am going to continue having a relationship with the ex. That is not going to change. My friends are my friends. I am not going to bring you any information on that, but this is a woman who's been in my life for 15 years. So I understand that might not be the most comfortable for you, and I am empathetic to that. I understand that. I understand why you would be upset that I saw her for a cocktail on the weekend of your wedding out of convenience. And I totally understand why that would upset you. That's also why I did not share it with you, because it's my business and it's my friendship. And I'm not budging on that. So at a certain point, it's like, you apologized. You're even more willing. You're even more willing to modify your behavior than I would be. Because to me, oh God, there's so much here, because to me, it's like a red flag that someone is having this type of emotional response to this particular situation, to the point where it's no contact, to the point where it's like giving you the third degree about this, I'm like, no. No, that level of response is disproportionate. Communicating that you were bummed out, okay. Communicating that you felt a little hurt that it happened on the wedding weekend. There are so many different degrees in which this could have been communicated. And so it's the no contact piece that is making me have this sensation of like, personally, I would dig my heels in. Personally, I would say, no. None of this. I'm not playing this game. I'm not giving you an inch, because this is the type of person who will take a mile. That's why I feel so strongly about it. You give a little bit and then it just causes a mess later. And so I think that's what I'm picking up on. And that's why my attitude would probably be, I'm doubling down on this. And you can communicate that my relationship with you and my brother is more important to me. But this level of wanting to control my personal and private relationships is something that I have a hard line about. That's what it is. And it's like, I've expressed a willingness to repair this with you. I've expressed a desire to make things right. I've made an apology. I've told you I'm aware. It's like you did all of the things. That's got to be enough. And especially because I know you, and I know that there's like more of a tendency to be accommodating, than to hold boundaries. That's what I know about you. And I know there's a lot of codependent family dynamics. And again, this is a former client for those who are just joining. So it's like, you have more information on what the new wife is like. Just understand that it's absolutely driven by feeling threatened, that's really what's causing this. And it depends on what type of boundaries you want to have around your personal relationships, and how important this is to you. This might not be worth a battle. If to you, this is the type of situation where it's like, I would rather just be on good terms than like fight with them or get into a confrontation with them, then maybe it is worth just like saying it won't happen again or whatever. But you can't do anything about whether or not they're communicating with you. Unless I'm gonna like put my foot in my mouth for a second. It's like, yes, you can reimagine this situation however you want. However, that's pretty difficult to do with family, more so than other types of relationships. Family and the people that you have the most history with are the most sticky because you have the most memory about it. So shifting your expectations around family is just way more difficult than other types of relationships. So it depends on what you want. To me, I will like go to battle for my dignity and for my privacy and for the high quality relationships that I have in my life, even if they're like not someone that I'm seeing all the time. Like I will not tolerate any type of interference with that. And I think some people might consider that to be pretty heavy-handed. And I completely agree. And that's not going to be the right approach for everyone. I just want to make that abundantly clear for everyone who's listening. My approach is not the right approach. It's just, I'm giving you an honest assessment of the shit that I would not put up with, this being one of them. So I just want everyone to be on the same page. If there's any therapists listening saying this is too aggressive, this is too combative of an approach, I warned you. I warned you that I would not take like a nice softy approach to this. I would double down on my position. Okay, anything else? I'm a little resentful that they reacted the way they did. You know, the other thing that you could do is you could speak to what you're witnessing, right? So you could speak to, my take is that this is a disproportionate reaction to what actually occurred. So sometimes in these situations, instead of taking an offensive approach, an offensive approach, the way that I would, or taking more of like the mutuality approach, like I'm going to make things better, I'm going to make things right. This is so important to me. You know, that's another approach. You can just speak truth to what you're seeing, to the observations. Like, this is, I'm confused by the disproportionality of this response. You could say, what else could you say? I understand your feelings, and also there's overstepping happening when it comes to my personal and private relationships. This is, I do not desire to have you involved in my private relationships. I'm sorry someone told you that I got a drink with her. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't put up with this. This is why I was like sweating about this yesterday, because I'm like, I don't like this type of manipulation where like I can be upset and then I can threaten to cut cords with you and cut off communication with you in order to get what I want and get you to bend over backwards. Whatever. I don't know if this is helpful to anyone. And also, I want a full transparency. I could be in the wrong. I don't think I am, but I understand that my relationship with my family, because let me say where my bias is. My family is so manipulative and so abusive. If you even give a hint that you will cave about something, or that you will give them what they want at the expense of yourself, they will continually abuse you. Okay, so this is part of the reason why I have such a strong reaction to this type of stuff, because it's like, if you open the door, it is like opening up Pandora's box. There is no stopping that. And so this is why I'm like, you have to, it really does depend on the person. It depends on who you're dealing with. And it doesn't sound like she is particularly reasonable or self-aware if this is the type of response that she's having to something like that. So here's the conclusion of this, and then I'll shut up about it. You have to decide how you are going to forecast what this relationship is going to be like in the future. Okay, you have to be able to assess that for yourself and say, are the odds good that things are going to be stable and secure with her? Or is this something where I am potentially opening up the door to more drama, more problems, more manipulation, more tantruming? You know, you have to discern that for yourself. And you also have to get your priorities and values straight. Like, to me, privacy is more important than my sister-in-law's feelings. Separation, so not having any like codependency around, I'm upset that you're talking to so-and-so, or because family does that too. Like if two family members are beefing out with each other, and then one family member is upset that you're still communicating with another family member, that's inappropriate to me. That's inappropriate. Your relationships are private. So to me, I value that more than the new wife getting upset. That's not high on my priority list. So only you can answer for yourself. What are your values? What is most important to you? And I can't answer that for you. I can only say what mine would be. Some people might be ultra family oriented, where it's like family first, blood is thicker than water, always be on the side of family. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with any approach. It's just a matter of what type of climate you want to create with all of this. My assessment is that this is a bluff. I don't think this is legit. I don't think that it even makes sense for this to be held for any amount of time. So I don't think this is legit. I think that this is test is too calculated of a word. I just think it's a bluff. So check your values, check your priorities, decide what type of climate you want to create, and then respond congruently with that conclusion that you come to. And find out who said something. Find out, okay, this is the other piece. One more. When you find out who it is, if I were to find out who the rat was, I more than likely would take it upon myself to go have a conversation with that person and, have a chat with them. And I would let them know what my expectations are for the relationship moving forward and for the boundaries that I expect them to abide by moving forward. You understand what I'm saying? I am like on one with this. This is my most unprofessional podcast to date. So, do with that what you will. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. All right, friends, let's see, is there anything else? I think that's it. I think that's it for today. I hope this gave you some insight. I hope this was helpful. How about when a good friend puts you in a position on the job while the person crossed the line? Give me more details. What do you mean? In a position? What do you mean? Right, but what position? I need more context. You were working and then your friend did what? I'm going to title this podcast episode My Most Unprofessional Advice, my most aggressive and unprofessional advice to date. Maybe that should be, you know what? Maybe that's just what I'm going to do from now on, is give my brutally honest and unprofessional advice. I don't want there to be any confusion about any of this. Like, this is not therapeutic advice necessarily. This is like genuinely what I would not tolerate in real life. It's so interesting. I've been seeing different things in different conversations about what's it called? Like, people being here, let me see this. He started talking about my personal life when it's not allowed at work. I mean, if you're like there in the moment, what I would do is I would interrupt. I would immediately go into like, nope, this is inappropriate. This is not allowed, especially if there's a policy about it. Throw the book in his face. You know what I mean? Like, not, and if it's a good friend, I'm not saying that you do it in a rude way. I'm saying that you say, you refer to the policy. Like, no. I'm absolutely going by the book on this one. It's really important to me that we not do this here, and that you not communicate about my personal life that is private. If you, it's like a breaking of trust. So you can communicate with him like, sharing this private information is a breach of trust. And if he cares about the friendship and he cares about the relationship, that will matter a lot. My sister is my biggest bully, and I honestly don't care anymore that it's family, because family members usually think they can throw any shit they want at you just because you're related to them. Yeah, some families are like that. Some families are like that. This is why I always give context when it comes to my family experience, like that I do have an abusive family, and so my tolerance has to be lower. And that's how it is when you're dealing with abusive people. Is like, you cannot be overly tolerant when they start pushing boundaries. If you have someone who is really kind, there's and more heart-centered and more loving and more willing to collaborate with you and be understanding, then there's more bandwidth to there's more bandwidth for repair. And so that's why everyone has to make their own assessment. I didn't grow up with that, but there are people who do have really good families where rupture and repair takes place. So that's why all of this matters. Like, if in the example of the podcast submission, if this woman is not capable of giving or receiving repairs, that's a fucking problem. That's a problem. If you're trying to repair with someone and she just continues to tantrum, it's a slippery slope, you know, with how much you tolerate. So anyway, yeah, I mean, if so in the case of like the coworker who violated your trust and started speaking about stuff that should not be spoken about, you've got to be willing to speak up and advocate for yourself in the moment. And then moving forward, if anything like that persists, then it would be, you know, you're not sharing personal information with him anymore. That's it. That's the consequence. Boundary. Don't talk about this openly. This is a private conversation. If you can't handle that, you can't handle me communicating on a personal level with you. That's okay. So anyway, that's the gist. All right, friends. We've been together for an hour. Yeah. A new era of the podcast has been born. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy all of my unprofessional advice. And I will talk to you all next time. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.